Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for this digital talk series, where we'll talk a little bit about resilient buildings and a little bit of simulation for social distancing. So I have here with me Gonzalo Tavares from Systra. And just to introduce myself, I'm Eduardo Lazarotto, the product manager for Bentley's buildings applications. And I come from a background of working with Legion. There is our pedestrian simulation application for the past couple of years. So I'll just pass it over to Gonzalo so he can present himself and Systra now.
Yes, thank you, Eduardo. Just a few words for Systra. Systra is a company that offers the safest, the most efficient, and the affordable custom transportation solutions at the service of the general interest. We try to respond to the cities and the territories transformation challenges, including all transport modes like pedestrian, metro, tramway, train, cars, and other innovative modes. Um, we are almost 6,700 employees, and we are involved in all phases of the project, from upstream and design studies to the construction phases, from testing and commissioning to operation and maintenance tasks. Systra is a French company, but its expertise is exported all over the world. And about myself, so I'm Gonzalo Tavares. I joined the Systra team as a mobility analyst and a pedestrian flow modeler. And I joined the company last March, just before the confinement period, and I immediately felt the impact of this crisis, especially on my way of working, and about the project progress, with some flow studies put on hold during this period. So yeah, we had to adapt ourselves and adapt our vision of things, and particularly on pedestrian flow studies.
Great. Thank you very much, Gonzalo. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about some of the projects that Systra has been working on?
Yes, about our project overview, we have the possibility to adapt our pedestrian flow studies to the current issues concerning the physical distancing or the flow management measures, and the several Systra studies with Legion software may be related to the current problems, depending on their scale on the study area. So now we have an example of one of our project, the train station study area, with the example of Gare du Nord train station project. So this project involved the transformation and reconfiguration of the largest train station in terms of ridership, about 200 million passengers per year. The crisis, the health crisis, is obviously impacting the passengers, and some arrangements need to be deployed to manage at the same time the passenger weight and the pathway to the train. So another point is the physical distancing required inside the train may also be mentioned and studied. And in addition to that, for this project, we also plan to develop the commercial activities of the future train station. So it's also possible to study the link between this crisis and the activity of businesses, of services, and then the possibility to analyze the management of pedestrian flows in the commercial spaces. For another example, with the metro or tramway stations. So during this lockdown restriction, we did a study case for fictional metro stations. handling 2,000 passengers during the 15 minutes peak. We did an article and a dynamic simulations video. That's the video we're watching is an extract. And we have provided some recommendations to respect different measures for better flow management and to visualize the consequences of physical distance. So we tested by iteration the maximum space capacity for the passengers. So we are able to show in a quantitative way the impact of the health crisis on enclosed space, such as metro station. Another study area is the multimodal hub, with the example of the Saint-Ouen Hub project. In fact, this study consisted in supporting the development of the future SGP station neighborhood. And for the record, SGP is Société du Grand Paris, who is in charge of the new metro lines projects in Paris and this area. It was necessary to organize the transfer between the different transport modes, and then to promote multimodality and alternative mobility. The flow studies allowed us to evaluate the mobility conditions on the hub, considering the place of the pedestrian in the middle of these different modes, transport modes. In the physical distancing topic can be applied to the waiting areas, at the bus stops, at crosswalks, applied to the station access, and to the forecourt station. And our last example is about museum, and more specifically the management of the Louvre visitors. Flow studies can be carried out in museums, as is the case of this study that we did, where the objective was to optimize a solid exploitation of the museum spaces according to the visitor flows, and in particular the optimization of the access controls position. So the challenge of physical distancing is essential in the proper functioning of museums, but also in other public buildings. So in addition to these different study areas, our expertise and the dynamic simulations use can be applied to airports, to stadiums, to shopping malls, because the issues are always similar.
Great. Thank you very much, Gonzalo, for the overview of the projects. Very, very interesting ones. So if I can ask you a few questions, maybe a little bit about Systra and about the projects that you mentioned.
Yes.
So, okay, great, thank you. So one of them is, so how do you see simulation applications evolving now after COVID-19? So is it going to be more utilized in the future?
In terms of pedestrian flow studies, I don't think that the dynamic simulations will evolve. The things that will change and evolve are more the input data and the answers to be provided through our flow studies. For the current problems caused by the physical distancing, the need for public space is increasing. Museums, metro stations, tram stations cannot accommodate their usual attendance during the peak periods. That's why we have to find solutions and respecting new criteria. For example, the density criteria may change. If we take the Freund scale, The current comfort and safety criterion is 1.4 square meters per person. And maybe this level of service will slowly change and will be increased to maybe 2.3 square meters per person. So maybe the guidelines will change. But another aspect in the long term concerns our lack of knowledge about the evolution of displacement in the coming years due to the crisis. We know that mobility will change, and maybe the volume of passengers in the public transport will be lower. So the question is, should we continue our dimensioning studies based on the ridership projections was calculated before this crisis, considering that the volume of passengers will probably tend to decline in a short or middle or long term? So to sum up, the objective of dynamic simulations will always be to help the evaluation and the optimization of the pedestrian spaces impact, but under new conditions, under new guidelines, under new measures, and with new input data, in fact.
Great, thank you, Gonzalo. So maybe a little bit of a follow-up question. So what kinds of questions do you foresee some of your users asking the models in the future? Do you see a change already?
Um, yeah, I think, in my opinion, our clients really want to know how to provide answers to these different issues related to the crisis, but in more visual way. Maybe I see that now they want more 3D videos, for example, and these videos can illustrate some questions that they can ask us. For example, uh, what happens with the implementation of flow management measures, how to manage specific zones for public waiting, or what is the impact of floor marking on the building operation? What is the maximum capacity of public spaces? Is physical distancing respected? Which are the potentially risky areas? And how to define the new hypotheses, the new assumptions for new contact methods between travelers and different services businesses, which means the methods are the contact use of the smartphones for the ticket. So and precisely how to adopt the spaces with these new measures. For example, if we reduce the number of ticket counters in a metro station, what should we do with these available spaces? Maybe will there be a desire to commercialize these spaces as in a train station, in fact? So in any case, it will be necessary to be able to answer this question with a system-wide approach, which means that taking into account the space holding capacity as well as passenger flow. So the client will want to have all the elements to ensure the solid and a solid and optimal use of space, but by checking the comfort and the safety of the public.
Great, thank you, Gonzalo. So if I can ask you a last question regarding Systra and a little bit about how you guys are working at the moment. So how are you currently collaborating while working remotely at Systra between teams and even with your customers as well?
Despite the difficulties with teleworking, um, we try to always maintain the contact, and for that we use different tools at our disposal: Teams, Skype, and even project-wise. I do not use this last one yet, but I know that some of my colleagues work with this tool. And our main goal is always to keep moving forward on our project. So we try to maintain this contact with our clients, we with colleagues, and I think we have more. I think we have more contacts now than before, because if we have a doubt or something else, we have a call and we can discuss about everything, about problems, about success, everything. So despite these obstacles with the crisis, we maintain the contact and we try to do it in the better way.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Gonzalo. Very enlightening conversation, and thank you for sharing some of the projects that Systra is working on and your views on the market and the future of the technology. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Eduardo.